right person to awaken it. And then, one fateful day, it was discovered by a man named Austin Peterson, a libertarian, a modern-day freedom fighter who would fulfill the destiny set in motion centuries before. The crystal called to him, and with it, Austin took up the mantle of the colonial Jedi, determined to bring balance back to the force of liberty in the United States. Through his show, the Wake Up America show, Austin Peterson became the voice of resistance, the spark of rebellion against the creeping darkness of tyranny. With the power of the Founding Fathers' crystal, he fights not with lightsabers or blasters, but with the force of truth, reason, and unwavering dedication to the principles of liberty. So remember, young Padawan, the fight for freedom is never easy, but with courage, unity, and a little bit of force on your side, even the darkest Sith can be vanquished. May the force of freedom be with you, always. In a galaxy not so far away, but a couple of centuries ago, a great struggle unfolded. A time of turmoil, where the force of freedom clashed against the oppressive grip of tyranny. This is the story of the Founding Fathers, the brave Jedi of the colonies, who dared to defy the dark side of the Redcoat Sith. Master George Washington, leader of the colonial Jedi, was no ordinary soldier. With a flintlock blaster in one hand, capable of delivering precise shots with the power of 1,000 musket balls, and a lightsaber forged from the ancient Liberty crystals, Washington was the beacon of hope in the darkness that covered the 13 colonies. And then there was Benjamin Franklin, the Yoda of the Revolution. Wise, cunning, and always a few steps ahead, Franklin's mind was sharper than his lightsaber, which he personally modified to discharge bolts of lightning, perfect for frying any Redcoat Sith foolish enough to cross his path. But the colonial Jedi were not without opposition. The Redcoat Sith, led by the Dark Lord Cornwallis, had crossed the Atlantic, bringing with them the dark side of taxation without representation. Their red lightsabers blazed like the very flames of oppression, ready to extinguish the light of liberty forever. The battles were fierce, and the stakes higher than the price of tea in Boston Harbor. At Bunker Hill, the colonial Jedi held their ground, their flintlock blasters firing energy bolts that could punch through the toughest redcoat armor. With each pull of the trigger, a burst of light and smoke, a fusion of the old and the new. And who could forget Thomas Jefferson, the Jedi Knight who penned the Declaration of Independence with one hand while wielding his lightsaber with the other? It was he who gave voice to the rebellion, declaring that all men are created equal, with the inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Or, in this case, the right to take down a few Sith Lords. The final battle came at Yorktown, where the forces of light and dark met in a cataclysmic struggle. Washington and Cornwallis, Jedi and Sith, fought with the full might of the Force behind them. Flintlock blasters cracked through the air like thunder, while lightsabers sliced through the gloom, each swing a testament to the fight for freedom. And when the dust settled, it was the colonial Jedi who stood victorious. Cornwallis defeated, surrendered, and the force of liberty triumphed over tyranny. The Sith were driven back across the sea and a new hope was born, a republic where the force of freedom would reign supreme. But the story does not end there. Knowing that the dark side could rise again, the Founding Fathers in their final moments channeled all their power, their wisdom, and their hope for the future into one single powerful crystal, a crystal of liberty. They knew that one day the force of liberty would need a new champion, someone worthy to wield this ancient power and restore balance when the force of freedom was once again threatened. For generations, the crystal lay hidden, its power waiting for the right moment, the right person to awaken it. And then, one fateful day, it was discovered by a man named Austin Peterson, a libertarian, a modern-day freedom fighter who would fulfill the destiny set in motion centuries before. The crystal called to him, and with it, Austin took up the mantle of the colonial Jedi, determined to bring balance back to the force of liberty in the United States. Through his show, the Wake Up America show, Austin Peterson became the voice of resistance, the spark of rebellion against the creeping darkness of tyranny. With the power of the Founding Fathers' crystal, he fights not with lightsabers or blasters, but with the force of truth, reason, and unwavering dedication to the principles of liberty. So remember, young Padawan, the fight for freedom is never easy, but with courage, unity, and a little bit of force on your side, even the darkest Sith can be vanquished. May the force of freedom be with you, always. In a galaxy not so far away, but a couple of centuries ago, a great struggle unfolded. A time of turmoil, where the force of freedom clashed against the oppressive grip of tyranny. This is the story of the Founding Fathers, the brave Jedi of the colonies, who dared to defy the dark side of the Redcoat Sith.
Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Today is 9/11/2024. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, a very ominous day. We will be discussing the anniversary of 9/11 a little bit later on. But first up, the great debate. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump face off for the first and potentially the only time in a debate where Kamala Harris appeared nervous, jittery, but landed a few blows. But Donald Trump fired back in a 3-versus-1 matchup where the ABC News moderators took sides in the debate, argued with Donald Trump, and essentially turned it into what I believe was a rigged debate. And as someone who has participated in actual literal debates for President of the United States, televised, streamed, and otherwise, I'm going to give you my very unique insight this morning on what Donald Trump had to face there in the washing machine. More on that with Tony Lavasco at 7:30 a.m. Central Time. Tony, the great Tony. Maria. Tony Lavasco joins us at 7:30 a.m. He'll give his debate reaction, see where we stand. He's a Missouri State representative, and he is a good man, a patriot, freedom fighter. Looking forward to hearing from Tony. At 8 o'clock this morning, Judge Andrew Napolitano, all rise. Yeah. Judge Knapp wants to talk about the Russians again.
No, God!
Of course.
No, God,
I don't know if this is going to go well today. It might be an absolute mess. When Judge Napolitano comes on here today at 8 o'clock this morning, we can expect that he will say some stuff that I'm probably going to not agree with, and I'm going to try and disagree with him as respectfully as possible. He was very much my mentor. Last night's debate can essentially be summarized like this.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm going to come.
Yes, if you're tuning in this morning live, why don't you click that like button? I see 142 people over at Rumble, and I know it's too much to ask for 142 people who are listening right now with their busy days to say, oh, Austin, I'm going to take my time and click the like button for you. But those who do, you shall have a place at the right hand of God. Yes. And for those who don't, I give you the Greta Thunberg.
how dare you?
If it's your first time here and you enjoyed today's content, of course, you should subscribe to the channel at rumble.com/AP for Liberty. When YouTube stepped in and said, oh, no, AP, you can't be for liberty on YouTube, Rumble heard the call and heeded the call and gave me my free speech back. That's why I'm at rumble.com/AP for Liberty. And if you're watching me on YouTube, join us over here. It's way better. I know that there are differences between the platforms, but just understand sometimes we got to put our money and our eyeballs where our mouth is when it comes to standing up for our principles. And watching us on Rumble is an easy way to do that. Also on X, thank you to my Elon Musk crowd. Mommy likes my shirt. Thanks, baby doll. You want me to take it off? Just kidding. I keyed. My wife had to explain to my mother-in-law my personality at some point, and this is partially why I'm an acquired taste, and some people don't like me right away when they meet me, is because I won't say I'm always joking, but probably 75% of the time I am, but I'm delivering a joke to you as if like I'm saying something normal when in fact I'm saying something really weird or awkward or strange or provocative or poop stirring, right? And so a lot of people, they won't understand. They didn't get the joke, right? They're like, what the hell? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Ugh! And I'm just like, it's a joke. Calm down. Oh, God. So we all just lighten up a little bit. I know people, I saw somebody in the chat earlier was saying they were black-pilled about the debate tonight. There's hope. Just, it's okay. Remember when you were Luke Skywalker and Binary Sons and you had Luke Skywalker and the song the John Williams Orchestra was playing out? Remember when you were a young man and Luke Skywalker was still cool and not this whiny lefty bitch that he is today, right? With Mark Hamill and how they've pooped all over the legacy. But you remember when you were a young person? Remember those days. And you're watching Star Wars and Luke is looking up into the Binary Sons and it's going dun 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 da 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 dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. The first time you heard Binary Sun and you're like, yes, I could do anything. Or maybe you were of the generation where Anakin's like, it's working, and not to be like a Star Wars nerd or anything about it, but I mean, we had hope, for the love of God, a new hope. We need a new hope. Hope, Obi-Wan. Oh, rest in peace, James Earl Jones. We're glad to have all of our live viewers and listeners, but sometimes people listen to the show later and they want to have their voice heard. What do? They send me a text at the bottom of the screen that they can't see, but you can. 573-319-1586 is the text line. I try and monitor as much as I can during the show. Just imagine yourself two like HD cameras rocking into a board with like a camera switcher over here, camera one, camera two, camera one, camera two. Try to drink your coffee. You got a board with a billion buttons on it. You're trying to manage all this and then check the text messages and see what the analytics is showing, right? Communicate with your staff, right? Steffi's sending you cute pics, right? Imagine, put yourself in my situation, guys. So if I don't always get back to the text message, I do check them later. Sometimes I check them in the evening. Sometimes we're texting back and forth, hanging out like bro and sis, right? Like, so text me anytime you like. 573-319-1586 is that text line, and I'd love to hear from you, whether live or later. It's all good. Is it good? It's good. Right. Sloby Tenderson says, my wife comes and shows me the Taylor Swift endorsement and was like, this is bad for the world. Yes, it is. We're going to hear camera one, camera two, camera one, camera two. Courtney, I think you got the joke. We watched that movie lately. Taylor Swift endorses Kamala Harris. Well, listen, as mean and nasty and vindictive and hateful and cruel and bitchy and unkind and hooty, as the British would say, as the Taylor Swift fans can sometimes be to those that they dislike. Unfortunately, those bitches are going to have to go down. That's right. You heard me. You want some hope? Here's some hope. Let's get out on the field. I want to play. Let's give the left the equity that they demand. Let's give the Swifties level playing ground. Let's say 5'3" with an attitude takes on me, 5'11", a Japanese karate sensei, and 240 beautiful pounds of fat and muscle. I will destroy them. I will dominate them. We will get Trump elected. Yeah. One more. Yeah. John and KC says, Trump had so many opportunities to rebut and take Kamala down, but he didn't. It was disappointing. He also had opportunities to rebut and take down the moderators, which was just so freaking annoying. So freaking annoying having to listen to the moderators arguing with Donald Trump, fact-checking him, quote unquote, in real time. We all know the truth of the most important moment of the debate last night. And I think that everybody can agree on that. It's a universal truth. Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, what he said. Well, of course, this is the time that my clip decides to crap out. Here it is, the most important moment of last night's presidential debate. Take a listen.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating... They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. In Springfield...
Quest Fanning says, I thought Austin was down at 225. I think I am around there. I just forgot, and I was monologuing in the moment, Quest, so I couldn't remember my exact weight. Get off me, I'm starving. How dare you? How dare you? I think I am 225. I just can't remember. I'm focusing on other things. Hey, by the way, it's 9/11. Are we doing 9/11 today?
I'm going up to my granddaughter's birthday in New York. Then we're going to watch the debate. And then tomorrow I'm doing 9/11. I I spoke to the
Squeeze me? What? What did you just say, Mr. President? What is he doing? Are we doing 9/11 today? Is it 9/11? Oh, okay. You know, and listen, I've been in newsrooms, okay, on 9/11, and everybody kind of looks at each other because, you know, we're kind of compelled to report on it and talk about it in the newsroom. It's like, it's the anniversary. You have to do something. You have to, like, it's like guaranteed. It's like, oh, put your head down and mourning and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I'm sure that they probably did that for Pearl Harbor, for example, when, you know, they had like the days of remembrance and things like that. And this was kind of that same style of situation. But as you could tell, the elites are tired of 9/11. I know a lot of people in New York and New Jersey and the victims and stuff are not tired of 9/11. And I'm not saying you should be tired of 9/11. I'm just simply remarking on the state of the world as it is. President Biden has been in a lot of newsrooms, and therefore he's talking like a lot of these news editors, the ones, you know, the journalists, the ones that you should hate, right? So they say things like
watch
this.
the debate, and then tomorrow I'm doing 9/11. I spoke.
So it's like when you're doing 9/11, I know it sounds funny, but not. Quest Fanning says it's nonchalant and disrespectful. It's true. It's true. And not to like take the journalist side or anything like this one, but I would just explain where they're coming from on this. It's like, if you're in a 24-hour-a-day newsroom, at 24 hours a day, you're hearing things breaking, bleeding, crying, you know, stories of tigers, you know, ripping, you know, eating a baby in Bangkok, right? And then you're getting a news report of this and all this like weird news, crazy news, you know, straight news, hard news, comic news, all this news is coming through. So at 24 hours a day, like, how somebody had like their butt blown up, right? Every day somebody goes to the hospital because they had something stuck up there. You know, it's just happens somewhere in the world. People are disgusting and weird and gross. But the rest of the world doesn't celebrate 9/11. When I say celebrate 9/11, it becomes for some of these people an actual holiday, right? It's like, okay, Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. We sort of like, we look on it with respect. To the day, this is the day that shall live in infamy. You'll hear it on the radio and things like that. But for them, and for a lot of people, even in the mainstream, like they're not like sitting around thinking, oh, it's Pearl Harbor attack day, right? Some of the old guys maybe sitting at the Hy-Vee, you know, lunch spot and talking about all this kind of stuff. This is reality. Don't get mad at me, right? I don't want to be irreverent or, you know, I don't want to disrespect people's traditions and you know, I don't want to poop all over the dead unless they're communists, of course. Then I poop all over you. Something for me to poop on. Tony Lavasco is going to be in the studio.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Okay, Norm, settle down. Tony Lavasco is going to be in studio with me in about 15 minutes. We're going to hear his take on the debate. There were many moments last night when Donald Trump was fact-checked, quote unquote, in real time, while the debate moderators appeared to set up a question to pose to Kamala Harris in order to all be on the same side. At one moment during the debate last night, I was surprised to see to hear Kamala Harris say that her and Tim Walz own guns. Tim Walz, I could believe, but Kamala Harris, that woman has been surrounded by guns forever. I mean, she is a gun, right? She doesn't need a gun. She's a cop. Here's that moment from last night's debate.
And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop
Such a lie.
lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable
She said it before. I haven't got the quote from this. If somebody in the chat could grab it, but I know for a fact she said that she's for an assault weapons ban. And I know what a terminology assault weapons. Don't come after me, okay? I know that's what they call it. I know it's not an assault weapon. It's an assault rifle if it's a fully automatic, and otherwise it's just a freaking AR-15. Get off my back, gun weirdos. I love guns too, but just stop being an asshole.
Care Act. Understand, let's just look at the history to know where people stand.
What would you do about the
there it is.
Millions of specifically assault weapons that are already in circulation? What do you do about those?
Well, there are approximately 5 million, to your point, Craig. We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
Mandatory buyback program. Oh.
How dare you?
Oh. Chris Cheese says, now I'm picturing AP as a gaming streamer yelling at people to get pooped on. Well, as you know, I am a streamer, and this Wake Up America show looks like a fun television show that you might have seen in the kind of the 1980s style almost. retro neon synthwave style. But we do a lot of silly graphics and silly shirts, but we do a lot of serious coverage as well here on the Wake Up America show, which is what I think really makes this show valuable and a good use of your time in the mornings, because not only you see something fun and pretty and retro, but you usually and you learn something new, and usually you get a few jokes at the same time, which is a great reason why you should subscribe to the channel by clicking the follow button underneath the Rumble chat, and come back and join us for our regular schedule, which is Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. And we'd be grateful to have you become a regular guest. Dr. Phil, I always like hearing from Dr. Phil. And I don't know how I feel about Dr. Phil. I think Dr. Phil is a great entertainer, but I more look at him sort of from an outside, kind of like, Dr. Phil, this is how he feels about that. Why are we asking Dr. Phil about that? But for some reason, some people really just like to listen to Dr. Phil about things. I look at it as more like I like the freak show, the carnival of freaks, right? I didn't like what he did to Shelley Duvall, but that's neither here nor there. Let's take a listen to how behavioral analysts said about the body language of the debate last night.
Was there bias by the moderators today, in y'all's opinion?
Let's just look at body language. Look at the facial expressions of people when they're looking at Trump. There was clearly a bias against Trump in their faces. Let's take my other opinion. This is all my opinion. There's a little bit of a thumb on the scale when you ask one person 2 questions in a row as the primary question, and it's a softball question. That feels like bias to me. I would challenge them to tell me why that's not bias if I were in his situation.
At the same time, we're seeing the commentators, they would be speaking at the same time President Trump was. So as he's trying to finish his answer, they would not only answer, they would keep talking as well. And you can tell, and I believe, if I'm correct here, the volume of his microphone might have been a little bit hotter than everybody else's. That's why he sounded so loud. He was speaking loudly, but I think you'll hear this when you listen back and forth. This is my opinion.
Well, let me remind everybody that Scott's a Grammy-nominated music producer, so he knows a little bit about sound.
So I pay attention to that stuff a little bit.
Yeah, I'll say this. I mean, I feel as if Trump started out strong and then started to sputter, and that Kamala Harris started out weak and then got stronger throughout the debate. That's my honest analysis. What do you think? Send me a text, 573-319-1586 is the text line, and I am monitoring that. One listener all the way from Canada. Oh, Canada, you're a lifetime of mystery on this planet. Thank you, Bruce Birtwistle. I watched the debate last night, but turned it off because I got tired of hearing Kamala saying she came from a middle-class family and not really dealing with issues. Thanks, Bruce Birtwistle. Er's mommy sent me a photo of baby Bruce at 5 months old, going to see him soon. That's wonderful. Isn't he in Canada, that little baby Bruce? Or not Canada, excuse me. Japan. I don't want to get the two of those mixed up. Hey, by the way, I'm your sensei. AP got promoted. Martial arts instructor for Jefferson City Parks and Rec. I feel like, like a small town celebrity kind of a thing. Bow to your sensei. Sweep the leg and walk away. I'm really excited for this opportunity because it means that I'm going to get to take my 20 years of experience and share that with a new generation. And where I live is very rural in Jefferson City, Missouri. It's a rural city, and we live kind of on the outskirts of town. And so I get to teach the kids what I've been able to learn from very traditional, very high quality Japanese karate dojos in New York and DC, and Hawaiian Kempo in Kansas City, Missouri, when I moved back there. But these kids and these adults, a lot of them are interested in Japanese culture, and they don't have a lot of opportunity to see it, hear it. But I'm going to teach them how to speak it, teach them how to count in Japanese, teach them the moves in Japanese, what it means, and introduce them to the literature on the art, which I think the kids are really going to love. A lot of them like Japanese food and things like that. But all of this is to say, to move on to my next, a topic we're going to discuss later on the show, which is that I'm now working on a new segment here for this show, which is, fight reactions. And I'm going to start pulling clips of fights and altercations, places where people have been attacked or people are fighting, to talk to you a little bit about self-defense theory from a open hand perspective. I'm not a firearms instructor. and I am a specifically Japanese karate instructor now, thanks to Jefferson City Parks and Rec, small town hero. But I'll share with you what I've learned about self-defense and the art of self-defense and the philosophy of self-defense in order to help you just understand a little bit more about potentially how to defend yourself and how to create a mindset, a healthy mindset around a concept like violence. So stick around, because towards the end of the show, after we have the judge, I've got a video clip for you of two men fighting. One is obviously very trained and the other one is very not. And the altercation between these two shows the distinct difference of someone who has spent time in the gym training versus someone who ordinarily, I think, would get the drop on someone like this if they weren't trained, because they were very strong, very wiry. But I think you're going to be fascinated by this discussion and more discussions that we're going to have related to this topic. In walks State Representative Tony Lavasco. If you would like to see the bonus content instead of commercials when I go to my commercial break, like right now, Tony Lavasco is going to come in and talk to us for like 30 minutes. And then we've got another guest, Judge Knapp, is going to roll fast. Send in those Rumble Rant donations and go to forlibertyshop.com. And when you do, you'll be able to help unlock the bonus content, because if we get $60 either worth of sales or combined with the Rumble Rant donations, we hit $60. You get to watch our bonus content today, which I think you're going to find really fascinating, a beautiful little story, and you watch the bonus content instead of commercials. I think it's a great way to incentivize you to donate and support the show financially, but you also get a little something fun and interesting and unique and exciting for you, because it's the Wake Up America show. It's fun. We're having fun. It's a family show with freedom fighters, and we love our families. Sometimes we curse a little. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Years ago, we started this journey together, bringing you the Wake Up America show every morning. I couldn't have done it without my incredible wife, Steffi, who's always by my side, and now our beautiful baby, Hazel, who's already getting used to studio life, waiting patiently during Freedom Family Fridays. What truly makes this show special is you. Your donations, your purchases from forlibertyshop.com. You're not just supporters, you're family. Together we've built something amazing, and we're just getting started. Thank you for being a part of our family. Here's to many more years of Wake Up America.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor of your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson, and you're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. It's been 2 big, beautiful years since we started the Wake Up America show, our 2-year anniversary of one show, one podcast, just me. We started with 27 people watching live. Now we have hundreds, sometimes thousands and thousands of people tuning in live to the Wake Up America show whenever the Rumble gods doth gift us, or whenever X decides to put us at the top of feed for whatever the reason. So hopefully that'll happen today. And if you're here now and it's your first time, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and come back and join us Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. We're all about love and freedom, loving America, fighting for economic freedom like my next guest. Missouri State Representative Tony Lovasco is a regular guest on the show, and he's here in the house. How you doing, Tony?
Doing well, Austin. How are you?
Doing good. My, you look exceptionally clear and, wow, perfectly in frame. Damn, it's like, nice to see you, Tony. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right.
All right, so you're here in Jefferson City, which is the capital of Missouri. We call it the swamp, Missouri swamp. Right? And it certainly is. Missouri likes to, and I saw a poll that showed this recently, Tony, Missouri likes to elect a supermajority of Republican politicians to enact Democratic policies. Does that sound about right?
It does seem to happen rather regularly, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that we find here is that, we've got a good cross-section of folks throughout the state. We've got some very urban areas, suburban areas, and a lot of rural areas. And as a result, you get a very different kind of politician that runs for office in those different sections. And without making too many broad statements, let's just say that some folks from certain areas of the state tend to be a little bit more liberal than others.
And the supermajority is, I mean, I think people who are Republicans like us, who maybe haven't thought about it, like, it sounds great to have a supermajority. Wow, if only, because maybe they're in blue states, that would be better than what they have. But still, a supermajority of Republicans in Missouri, it does not provide the panacea that we're looking for. So when people kind of complain about the gridlock in Washington, D.C., for example, and they're like, Trump was right last night during the debate. He said 50-50. She's not going to get a bill like that across, of national abortion ban across. It's like they essentially cancel each other out. Whereas in Missouri, they just ram that crap through, don't they?
Well, sure. One of the things that people forget when you have a massive supermajority, any individual representative's vote really doesn't matter on a lot of issues. Mm-hmm. The vast majority of things that we debate are just not that close votes. And the unfortunate result of that is that individual reps don't have a lot of leverage to make improvements or changes, let alone stop something that's actually terrible. And so you've got a frustrating situation where you might have a small minority kind of banding together to try to stop some garbage that's getting rammed through, and you just find you just don't have the numbers. And that's not the case in a lot of states where we're a lot, slimmer majority. And so it's a very different dichotomy.
Big news in Missouri yesterday. The Supreme Court reversed a decision to take off of the ballot our abortion question, which will be on Missouri's ballot this fall. Many states are voting this fall on the abortion question, specifically because, as Trump was saying last night during the debate, Roe versus Wade had been overturned. They were trying to get him on pushing for a national abortion ban and put his back up against the wall in that situation, even though he's been pretty clear. He basically takes like the most reasonable, middle of the road abortion position that there is. But Missourians who like to have Republican politicians do Democrat policies are going to vote for Republicans this fall in Missouri, and then they're probably going to vote to legalize abortion.
Yeah.
Tony,
yeah,
like I'm taking crazy pills.
It's frustrating. Every single major election cycle, there is something on the ballot through the initiative petition process that erodes away our Constitution more and more, with more and more terribly written policies. Whether or not you actually want the thing that they're trying to do at any given day is a separate discussion. Half the time, these things are barely coherently written. They're not actually vetted and gone through a process to actually make sure it does what they say it's going to do. And every single time, it seems like the voters decide, well, yeah, we'll go ahead and put more junk in the Constitution. And you're right. In the exact same election, then they elect Republicans across the board. It's very confusing.
Well, a lot of people who are a little more savvy about what happens in Missouri politics understand the Democrat history of Missouri. This is the state of Harry Truman, after all. And so, Claire McCaskill just got voted out of office 6-7 years ago, not too long, where it used to be sort of not a Democrat supermajority state. So a lot of the blue collaredness, for example, which has moved over to the MAGA movement in the Republican Party. The reason why this state goes so heavy for Trump is because a lot of those sort of, we'll call them Ozarks and hillbillies and rednecks of Missouri, they used to identify with the Democratic Party, but it's changed here in Missouri, and now those rednecks and Ozark hillbillies and southwestern Missouri. This is not a diminutive term here in Missouri when we call ourselves Ozarks and Ozarkans and hillbillies and stuff. Like, we embrace that stuff. We even have a town called Uranus that sells fudge. So trust me, Missourians can take a joke. I mean, the town I grew up in is peculiar, right? We have a town named with Japan, but it's called Japin. So Missourians could take a joke. Show me the joke, right? But Democrats do get a lot here in Missouri, despite not having a supermajority.
Well, sure. And I think one of the reasons for that is, as the Democratic Party has moved farther and farther left and become more and more crazy, people are flooding out of that party over to the Republican side. The problem is, I don't know that the Republican Party has done anything to earn their support. They kind of just landed here because they didn't like the Democrats. And we're not doing a good job of actually showing them what our values are and why you should be a Republican for, proactive reasons and not just because you're escaping something. And I think that's reflected in a lot of these ballot issues where they kind of fall back on the old tropes that they were told throughout their lives about, whatever leftist thing happens to be the issue of the day. And even though they maybe, now associate the Democratic brand, which a bunch of Marxists or whatnot, they don't necessarily stop to think about what the policies that they're supporting really are.
Back to the debate that happened last night between Trump and Harris. Just in theory, if Donald Trump is the president versus Kamala Harris, do you think that Donald Trump would be less bellicose when it comes to foreign policy and in general might be able to be more capable of solving the conflict when it comes to Israel versus Hamas and Russia versus Ukraine? Would you trust Donald Trump more in a foreign policy position than Kamala Harris?
Oh, absolutely.
Why?
I think for starters, he has a track record, right? We saw him for 4 years. We saw what he did. But the biggest thing is we watched the debate last night and, obviously Kamala scoffed at his, well, I just make some phone calls and make this go away, which, admittingly was an overly simplistic answer. But the reality is there is value in someone who can actually talk to our adversaries. They don't have to necessarily love the guy and it doesn't have to necessarily be a friendship, but having a dialogue where you actually can have a discussion as a starting point is a good amount of the progress that you need to make when you're trying to end conflict. If you literally can't even be in a room with someone or make a phone call and you have a reasonable assurance that they're going to take your call, you're probably not going to figure out a nonviolent, peaceful solution to anything. And so maybe he figures it out, maybe he doesn't. I mean, let's be honest, the Israel-Palestine thing has been going on for a long time. It's pretty unlikely that the next president in 4 years is going to fix that. But which person is likely going to make it somewhat better versus way worse? I think that's an easy question.
Do you think that it's things like that that make it this year so much easier to vote for Donald Trump over, say, the Libertarian Party candidate?
Well, that's a whole different bag of worms. You know, the Libertarian Party has apparently decided to nominate someone who, quite frankly, is just not up to the challenge of running for federal office.
Good, honestly, because we really didn't need a strong Libertarian this year.
And I think, quite frankly, when RFK decided to drop out and endorse Trump, I think that was also positive. I think that, as much as I think, generally speaking, having third-party voices add different perspective is important in making sure that the two major parties step up their game and actually are accountable. It only actually works if the third-party candidates have something to add that is going to be ultimately changing and shaping the narrative, and I just wasn't seeing that happening this cycle.
Do you fear Kamala Harris and what she's going to do?
Yes and no. I don't think she's especially evil as a human being. I think it's more what she represents and ultimately what the Democratic Party will do with her in power. You scowl at me, Austin, but let's be honest. Trump was right. She lost really badly last time. She was the first one out, and she was nowhere near the top of the pack. She's not an impressive person. I'm not concerned that she's going to be some great mastermind that's going to be pushing through some FDR, Lyndon Johnson agenda.
Then she's going to be a puppet controlled by George Soros.
Well, sure, but I mean, that's what we got now, right? That's nothing new. I'm more concerned about what happens in a not 50-50 Congress, where we might ultimately have even a slim majority on both sides. If we lose House and Senate next cycle and Kamala is president, that will be a nightmare. That cannot happen.
The left is going to curb stomp us if we do not maintain the Supreme Court. It is so important for Donald Trump to win the next election for the simple reason of protecting the last bulwark of liberty that we have as an institution. I'm not saying I could fully trust the Supreme Court, but I'm saying it's the only institution that has shown that it will rebut congressional or executive power in any way, shape, or form whatsoever, despite having given the president immunity from prosecution while in the act of his duties and things like that. Right, Tony?
Well, and I think that was actually kind of a missed opportunity for Trump last night, which was that, the discussion of court packing didn't come up. That's something I would very much like to see somebody put Kamala on the record for, is whether or not she supports that. I think she does, based on what I recall.
She does. She'll say whatever.
She doesn't actually have positions on most things, so I can't be sure.
Yeah, she was going to say. She's going to share. She's going to tell you whatever you want to hear, Tony. Because she said last night she had a gun and stuff. She said she wasn't going to take our guns. I played the clip right before you came on. She said she's going to take our guns, Tony.
What she means, Austin, is that she is not personally going to take your gun. She's going to send someone else to do it.
Exactly. Fact check this one, guys. PolitiFact. Pause for just a moment. We're having so much fun that I need to do a commercial. Click the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this content. We do stuff like this every day. We have an absolute blast. And I talk to interesting people like Tony Lavasco joining us live in studio. Isn't he handsome? He's taken, ladies. Back off. Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala Harris last night. Your reaction?
Boo.
You.
And but here's the thing, Brittany Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes' wife, Kansas City.
I heard that. I guess she's going for Trump.
I guess she's going for Trump, baby. So we're going Brittany all the way.
It's going to be awkward, and I love it.
Awkward, exactly. I love it, exactly. Tony, thank you for making this fun. Taylor Swift, though, they say she's got an army. Listen, they're saying they've got electoral power, right? So here's the thing. The leftists want equity, right? Feminism, rah, rah, rah. I want to take on 5'3" with an attitude on the field. I want them to unleash me. What have I got to do, Tony? Put on a dress and show up on a soccer pitch before I can start crushing women in 5'3"?
Please don't do that.
Metaphorically speaking, in politics, though, if we have an army of Swifties we have to take on, we're going to have to crush them.
Well, here's the thing that we keep forgetting every time the left plays this card. Young people don't actually vote, like, ever. So not too worried about it.
The Swifties, here's the thing. When you have a billion Swifties, they're going to vote twice, right? They're going to cheat, Tony. You know what I'm saying? They're going to cheat. It's going to be a stolen election, Tony.
Yeah, we'll see.
I have a feeling that they're going to steal it.
I think Trump will get it. I don't think it'll be by much. It'll be a close one, but I think Trump can pull it off.
Okay. I'm going to hold you to that and cut this clip and play it for later. I'm speaking to Missouri State Representative Tony Lavasco about the debate last night and anything and everything that we want to do. What are you doing here? Is there some secret mission in Jefferson City, Tony? Can you say?
Yes, we are here to not override the governor's vetoes. So, yeah, yay, exciting day.
Okay, not override the governor's veto. It's good to hear about that. So I guess we can move on there. Oh, did you see? And thank you to D Nathan 97. Just joined us here. Click the like button, Nathan. Did you see that it looked like Kamala's is a rumor, allegedly? that Kamala was wearing an earpiece that looked like an earring. Dude, that debate was so rigged. If Kamala wasn't wearing an earpiece, it didn't matter because the moderators were stepping in and going to work on her behalf.
Well, this is going to be a little controversial, Austin.
All right, let's hear it, Tony. Spicy takes only.
I think she won that debate because Trump did badly.
Tony!
That was not a good performance by Donald Trump. He has done much better. He did an excellent answer on the abortion question. He did a very strong start, and then he just kind of started going off and chasing squirrels.
I felt like he had a lot of missed opportunities. I felt like he started out strong and then kind of descended throughout the debate, and then she started out weak, like smacking her lips. They're dry, and she's
making faces.
Did you see at the beginning of the debate when she came up to shake his hand and to meet him? And I thought I had read yesterday that this is the first time they've ever actually met in real life.
I believe that, yeah.
Well, so when she goes up to meet him, she's been doing the voter thing, right? So when you walk up to someone that you're trying to get a vote from, what do? You go, Tony, you're going to meet a voter. You go, Tony Lavasco, right? She walked up to Trump and goes,
herself.
it says
catch that.
Kamala Harris. Yeah. I was like, nobody catches this.
That's great.
These are the kinds of things that I notice too, because I've done presidential debates on television and I know how nervous you get and how dangerous it is to your reputation and your career and everything.
Firm handshake's good, but she's like, Kamala Harris, right? It's like, yeah, I know, bitch. Like, shut up.
I know who you are.
I just Trump has done so much better in the past. I wish he would have brought his game last night, and he just really didn't.
Yeah. LW78 says Trump didn't do the worst, but he wasn't focused. Kamala didn't answer any questions. Says Will Run Riot. He's from Springfield.
Absolutely.
We got a lot of Missouri boys. Yeah. So, I mean, Trump had his moments. I think here's the funny thing. So what about the cats of Springfield? The dogs of Springfield, Ohio, Tony.
So there was a few times where
eating them, Tony.
She was very obviously baiting him, and he took the bait. That was completely unfortunate because he just brought that up. Like,
okay,
that,
but
like
we
she
don't
didn't even dangle that.
Okay, here's the problem. So pets are disappearing allegedly, and at least the citizens are. But here's the thing: the police are not reporting the reports. Okay, which is not. It's evident. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
There's clearly a problem going on here, regardless of whether or not pets are being eaten. Doesn't matter. There's obviously an issue that's a real problem.
But hypothetically, if they were being eaten, do you think that would be a drag on Kamala Harris's campaign?
No, I don't think that makes a difference at all. I think that's the problem with Trump's.
That's BS. You're wrong. You're wrong. Go ahead.
I get that the immigration problem is massive. I get it's something that is foremost in people's minds. He absolutely needs to hammer that home because it's been his big issue. Absolutely. But it is not actually the relevant fact pattern for every single question that might be out there.
Kamala, right? But here's the thing: like Kamala lied like to our faces last night about guns, about immigration, and about everything under the sun. And it was like they just let it go by. Like the Charlottesville thing, very fine people on both sides.
Absolutely, that's a great example.
Like we don't know, like. The jury's not out on the dogs and cats story. You don't think it's a good line of attack? Fine. I think it is because I think people are stupid. Because as the great Indian guy meme video that goes around says, democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people. But the people are retarded. The people are retarded. And they think that if they're killing if the Haitians are eating puppies and kittens in Springfield, Ohio, if that's true, Tony, then I think that could sink the Democrat campaign.
Yeah,
because people like animals more than they like humans.
That is absolutely true. No, I think the issue here is Trump needs to make it clear that this is an existential threat. And you don't do that by making it such a hyperbolic problem that people start to think you're exaggerating it.
Mm-hmm.
And every answer, it seemed like he one-upped his previous answer about how bad things were.
Right.
And it gave you the impression that like during the course of the debate, we had another like 10 million illegals coming in and eating cats. And at a certain point, that just starts to get kind of ridiculous. People start thinking, okay, this is maybe not as big of a problem as you think it is. And that's exactly the opposite of what people need to be thinking if Trump is going to win this. And I think that was his mistake here.
January 6th, that question, that hangs over his head mightily, right? He says, the moderators, are pushing him on this one, that like it's his fault. Why didn't he call in the National Guard? Nancy Pelosi was in charge of the security at the Capitol that day. She even said later on camera that she was responsible. Trump said, I'm trying. He offered the mayor of Washington, D.C. and Nancy Pelosi something like 10,000 guard troops.
No, yeah.
And they didn't do it. And they're laying this at his feet. And they've done so successfully, Tony. They are playing a game like snakes. They're playing snakes and ladders, and they're winning. The snakes are climbing the ladders, and us, the bad guys, the snake catchers, trying to drive them out of Ireland, and it's not working.
Well, and I think ultimately that was one of the things that frustrated me about that section of the debate is, to me, January 6th is a softball for Trump. Rather than try to defend himself and, talk about how, well, he told them to be peaceful and all that, which is true. That would have been the easiest time to deflect and say, look, you see what happened to those people. You saw, there was a handful that did some violence. They deserve what they get. But on the number of people that were just there for a protest, that maybe wandered in, didn't touch anything, didn't break anything, and the government destroyed their lives, hunted them down weeks later to prosecute them at unprecedented levels, that could happen to you. That should be his message, is that he is going to protect us from the weaponized Justice Department that has prosecuted him over and over again as a political weapon. Instead, he focused on himself. He focused on, well, this is unprecedented. I'm so persecuted. I don't think that resonates. People do not feel, any connection with a billionaire who, is former president of the United States. They don't feel like, oh, well, that I could be in your shoes. They could absolutely sympathize with someone who shows up to a protest and gets caught in a mob.
There was a moment last night during the debate when Trump silenced Kamala Harris, said, "I'm speaking."
That was good.
You remember that?
That was good.
I think for a very brief moment, and anybody who says they know anything about women is lying, right? But I mean, maybe a little more than the average bear, a little experience with females, happily married ladies, sorry. But she got hot when he did that to her. There was a moment she was smiling, and she looked like in that video where she's with Montel Williams. And I kid you not. And then Willie Brown, did you see the video that came out yesterday of her being all like a hot, tight, nice piece? Because the camera showed up to record Willie Brown. And then here's Kamala Harris comes and turns around. She's in this tight little dress. And the reporter asks her the question and says, "Are you Willie Brown's daughter?" And she's like, "No," because she's his lover, right? So, I mean, she's used her sexuality as part of her political rise to power. And therefore, I think it's a question if we're going to talk about things like abortion and responsibility. Sex is a part of this equation. He would dominate her in a way that women like to be dominated, because you could tell from the look on her face that rather than this whole, he flipped the script. Rather than this whole black women are dominant, black woman is speaking, listen to what I'm saying. He turned it around on her and played the whole heterosexual male-female dynamic like a boss. Would you agree or disagree?
Well, I mean, I don't know that I read that much into it. I would say that was incredibly effective because it came across as genuine. It didn't come across as him trying to, just be a jerk and give her the finger and smack her down. It came across as, I'm in charge, you're not, shut up.
I remember
and that's what people are looking for in a leadership role.
Yes.
And I
he
think
should have done that to the debate moderators.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you, I knew that to the moment that I knew that our old friend Ron Paul was not going to win the presidency was, I still supported him, of course, but was when he was in the Ronald Reagan presidential debate underneath the Air Force One debate. It might have been 2008, might have been 2012, I can't remember. But Anderson Cooper was like giving him crap or something like that. This is like a feminine little male like giving him crap. And I was saying to myself, and then Ron, and he said, "Oh, we're going to come back to you, Ron," because Ron was going on about some, esoteric Federal Reserve policy or something. He's like, "We're going to come back to you, Ron." And Ron's like, "Oh, okay, you're going to come back to me. It's fine." And I was like, you can't win the presidency of the United States and not be like, "No, listen, boy, I will be the president of the United States. This is my job. I'm speaking now," right? You have to have that kind of energy. And Trump, I think, man, I was reading in the Wall Street Journal yesterday. They were like, Trump should be under his control. He should have himself. He should be hinged and be presidential and all that crap. And I'm like, no, because he tried to do both last night and it didn't work. He just needs to be Trump. He needs to talk about the kitties and the putt and stuff that you don't like. But that average retards that go into the voting box and vote it once every 4 years that don't know gall about what happens in politics are going to vote for him to save the puppies and the kittens. He just needs to be Trump.
See, I don't disagree with that concept. I think the difference is which Trump, right? We have several different versions of the guy. And I think if you look at the old Trump back before he ran for office, on The Apprentice or whatnot, the guy who's just the boss, I think that Trump sells. 2016, that's how he dominated the primary debates. Was I'm the guy. He just kind of assumed the sale from the beginning. I thought that was fantastic. The problem is, since then, he has made it more about a performance in a lot of respects than I'm just here to do the job and go home. And I think you can be quirky, you can be no nonsense, tell it like it is, all the stuff that people like about Trump, while still exuding I'm the CEO who ultimately knows what I'm doing.
Absolutely. Trump has badass energy. He has to let it fly. He has to let it fly and show that he's ready to take the reins again and to come back and to pull a Grover Cleveland and be the second non-consecutive president. And he's got to show that he's still got that vim, that vigor, that power, that fire and fury. And Kamala Harris is just nothing but 5'4" and an attitude. That's all she is, right? She ain't nothing but a boo-thing baby, right, for Willie Brown. And take out the trash. Hey, Tony, 1,131 people joining us live on X, 230 people joining us live over on Rumble. That's a great crowd. Good morning, LaWanda Kress. I see you over there on X.com saying, congratulations, Sensei. Did you hear I'm taking over as karate instructor?
I did.
Here in Jeff City? Yeah, Sensei. You're Sensei. Yeah, I'm going to be teaching Japanese karate here in Jefferson City here. So I still live here, Tony, and I'm glad that you come in to be on set with us. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with your career in the coming years. Do you have to leave right now? Do you have time? When do you have to be out of the gate? Because if you want to hang around and talk with Judge Knapp with me about...
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
You want to talk with the judge? Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to a quick commercial break because we haven't unlocked the bonus content. What's wrong with you? I'm going to give you a headset. And when we get back, we're going to talk to the judge about the Russians.
Sounds great.
Sounds good. All right. When we get back, it's me, Judge Andrew Napolitano, Tony Lavasco on set, 3 hardcore libertarian freedom fighters, motherfuckers. It's the Wake Up America show. You're in the right place. Click the like, subscribe, do all the things. Money, money, money.
Can you bless me with something?
We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
Please.
Wrong camera, wrong guy.
The Cantina crew, this is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian, and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government. Get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Good morning, friends. Austin Peterson here. It's time to rise and freedom. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. And thankfully, State Rep Tony Lavasco doesn't have to run away across the street to the Capitol. Welcome back, Tony. Thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate you. We've got Judge Andrew Napolitano, who's the host of the Judging Freedom podcast, joining us live for our regular Big Brain Time. All rise. The great Judge Andrew Napolitano, jurist, author, and friend of the show. Good morning, Judge. Nice to see you, handsome. How you feeling?
Justin, it's always a pleasure to be with you. And Representative Lavasco, it's a pleasure to be with you as well.
Judge, let's talk a little bit about this story that has blown up on the right. Many of these people I know firsthand. I imagine you probably do as well, with the story of Russian money potentially penetrating American conservatives' news and opinions. This is the question about exactly how Moscow gets its message out here in the United States. It's kind of the year of the Foreign Agents Registration Act with Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey, and now this Lauren Chen character who used to work for our mutual friend Glenn Beck. It does appear as if there are Russian influence operations that are occurring here in the United States. Big picture, what's your take on FARA, its use against Senator Bob Menendez, and what do you think the Russians are trying to do, and what do you think the DOJ's angle is? Big picture on this.
I think the DOJ has become what the Soviet Union was, prosecuting people for the freedom of speech when the speech is language that the government hates and fears. My column this week is about this very topic, and so I appreciate you raising it. It's very, very dangerous when the government prosecutes people because they express an opinion that at odds with the government, no matter who is paying the people to express those opinions. The whole purpose of the First Amendment is to keep the government out of the business of speech. The test and the strength of an idea is its ability to be accepted in the marketplace of ideas, not its ability to be popular with the government. If Vladimir Putin wants to pay somebody to express an opinion that the war in Ukraine is a just war from his perspective, he's at liberty to do that, and those people are at liberty to express that opinion. And yes, I do know one of the people who's being prosecuted, Dmitry Simes, whom I've known for years. He's a dual Russian-American citizen being prosecuted for working in Russia for a Russian television station. How can that possibly be an American crime?
Well,
yet this Justice Department is pursuing him for it.
Yeah, well, see, my take on that would be that the money that Vladimir Putin is using is stolen from his people in the form of taxation, and that it is not the role of governments to be involved in propaganda, especially in foreign nations. And therefore, what he is doing is ultimately illegitimate for the simple fact that governments should not be spreading their propaganda using stolen tax dollars in foreign countries. Nevertheless, they do it, we do it. NPR is partially state funded here and runs propaganda for the U.S. government. Everybody does it. I guess the question really is, Judge, is how do we protect ourselves from espionage, like perhaps the Senator Menendez case, for example? Can you speak to us about that?
Well, the Menendez case, in my view, was a prosecution of somebody who had frustrated the DOJ for years. There's no proof that Menendez, in my opinion, and I don't defend him at all, politically or morally, but in my opinion, there's no proof that he pulled the official levers of government power. That's the phrase from the McDonald case, in which Governor McDonald was convicted for accepting a Rolex watch in return for doing a favor for a constituent. The Supreme Court reversed the conviction unanimously and said there's no proof that what the governor did was pulling the official levers of government power in return for the watch. There was no proof that Menendez pulled the levers of government power. That is an entirely different breed of cat than Dmitry Simes, a joint American-Russian citizen, running the most popular talk show in Moscow on a television station that is partially owned by the Russian government. Quite frankly, it's none of our business that other countries do this. Yes, the tax dollars are stolen. All tax dollars are stolen because you and I believe that taxation is theft. But it's none of our business how Vladimir Putin chooses to run Russia. If it is, there will be no end to the monsters that we will seek to slay.
I'm always concerned about the human rights abuses that are inflicted on their people by people like Vladimir Putin and his slaughter of journalists and of dissidents and the stifling of free speech and Chinese human rights abuses of Uyghurs in camps and the harvesting of organs by vans and things like that. So I am concerned about how those people run their countries because of citizens of Hong Kong who desire freedom. But at the end of the day, I am more concerned, I think, about America first and about how they may try and influence our elections. The problem here, of course, is that libertarians believe in laws against force and fraud. And in this case, it appears as if there was fraud that was committed in the creation of a false identity by, as yet not understood until investigations shall commence. But there was a creation of a false identity either by the Russians or by the American counterparts that were then giving that money to friends of ours, mine, Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, and others. And they were, to what appears to be, if this is true, they were then defrauded and perhaps have taken a hit to their reputation. I mean, in theory, they should be able to sue Lauren Chen if these allegations are true, correct?
Well, there's a lot there to unpack. Can they sue somebody who duped them if they can show that they were harmed? Yes, they can. Was the freedom of speech harmed by what this woman and what they did at all? Answer, no. Why should the government care? I'll use Dave since he's a friend of mine and perhaps I think a friend of yours as well. Why should the government care who's paying Dave Rubin to say what he wants to say? He can say what he wants, and he can be paid by whomever he wants. If somebody tricked him into believing there was someone other than who they were, that's not the government's business. That's his.
He can sue, right?
Another example of big government run amok, trying to protect us from the opinions it doesn't want us to hear.
I think two things can be true at once, and what you say is true. However, but if Dave Rubin does take a hit to his reputation because he did not want to work with the Russia Today or take money from the Russians for whatever his own personal reasons may be, he could seek restitution in civil court against Tenet Media, who gave him the money on the basis that he was receiving this from some European financier that didn't exist, correct?
Well, theoretically, yes. I don't think there's any money there. I don't think that these people have assets remaining. However, theoretically, yes. If this tenant media, whoever it was and whatever it was, tricked him into doing something that harmed him, of course he has a cause of action against them. But my argument is that under the First Amendment, because this is all speech, it's pure speech, it's nothing but speech, it's none of the government's business. When the government gets into the business of evaluating the content of speech, we're not talking about time, place, and manner. We're not talking about a bullhorn at 3 a.m. in a residential neighborhood. We're talking about the content of speech because the government doesn't like it. It's very, very dangerous. Suppose Dave Rubin were preaching the value and the worth of slaughtering innocents in Gaza, or the value and the worth of fighting against Russians in Ukraine. You think he would be you think this case would have even exist? Of course not.
No, it's a two-tier justice system, no doubt. My friend Tony has a question for you, Judge.
Well, actually, just a comment, Austin. I'm curious your thoughts. How does this compare to what we see here domestically in every capital across the nation when it comes to lobbyists? Right. You've got a situation in which someone has an agenda. They've got perhaps a bill they want passed. They've got some speech they wish to impart in the political process. And rather than knocking on all the doors themselves, they pay someone else to go door to door and lobby guys like me.
Lobbying is free speech. Lobbying is free speech. The difference is it's an apples and oranges comparison because I'm talking about money coming through tax dollars. We're talking about propaganda created by governments for the purpose of spreading a big government message in our country. And I see universal human rights as an inimitable truth, but the only ability for us to protect those rights at this time in human history is within the confines of an American Constitution. And I'm for America first. And I feel nationalism should take a secondary position to individual liberty. And lobbyists should have the ability to have free speech, but I don't grant those same protections to officials who are acting officially in a government capacity in any way whatsoever at all. And I don't think that you should conflate those two. It's not free speech. It's stolen money from a tyrant who murders journalists and who is spreading his propaganda here. And people deserve to know that, however it may happen. And the devil's in the details of how that is the speech is protected.
Well, so to be clear, I'm not saying this is a positive thing. What I'm saying is there's a massive distinction between saying it is not good for America to have Russia interfering with our process in this manner and spreading propaganda. However, they get the money to do it. Not really material to discussion, I don't think. It's not positive. Of course not. The issue is, should the people that are Americans that were involved, that were paid or otherwise part of this process, be prosecuted? And that's where I agree with the judge. And I would have to say no, because we might not like it, but taking money in exchange for expressing someone else's viewpoint is in fact speech. Period, paragraph.
I'm not sure if I think that what they did specifically should be a crime. I will say, however, that there's a weak spot in the ability to prosecute espionage. And I would actually invite the judge to help me with this one. Judge, we've talked before about how you would, if you were the president, get rid of the part of the CIA that overthrows governments overseas, and then that we are in a full agreement, but you would keep the part of the agency that does the actual spying, for example, in order to conduct proper foreign policy and protect the national security of the United States. So how would we, in theory, protect the United States from espionage without a law like FARA, for example, without clamping down on free speech? Is it possible for us to thread that needle, and how would we do something like that?
I don't know the answer to that, but I go back to the First Amendment that the government should not be in the business of prosecuting people for their speech. This case involving Dimitri Simes is not a case of spying. It's not a case of espionage. It's a case of expressing opinions with which the government disagrees. I have to weigh in a little bit on what Tony just said, and I agree fully and appreciate his supporting my view on this. But it's interesting you should mention lobbyists, and it's interesting that you are a state representative, because there is a lobbyist in the Missouri State House, and you don't know who it is. And she works for the CIA. How do I know that? Because the CIA is in every state house in the union, not registered, not identified, but there, spying on you and your colleagues and the lobbyists who are lobbying you. That's the federal government. which doesn't give a damn about the freedom of speech or about the Fourth Amendment, which is your right to privacy.
A lot of people look at Israel, for example, and AIPAC, and they try and make that as a comparison to this situation because Israel spends hundreds of millions to billions of dollars here in the United States lobbying, as we're discussing, trying to influence the opinions of politicians. They, helped to take out Jamal Bowman of New York, and I believe, and also Cori Bush here in Missouri.
Yeah,
right, that was a big
absolutely.
deal because she was very against Israel and AIPAC. I think that it's the minute detailed difference, of course, is that AIPAC is a registered lobbyist, and they tell people where they're. It is not. AIPAC is not a registered lobby.
It is not registered under FARA. It's the only foreign lobbying organization that the government doesn't require it to register. Why not? Because the government is bought and paid for by AIPAC. Why did Netanyahu get 56 standing ovations? Because he bought the audience.
So then they're actually operating under your system that you're advocating for. Nobody should have to register, right? Because then everybody should, it's just free speech. So everybody should be.
How does the government decide who to prosecute? It prosecutes those with whose speech it disagrees.
So in theory, Tony, everybody should get the Israeli lobby deal, not have to register with the foreign government, and should be able to spend an infinite amount of money in our elections to influence it as they please without telling anyone, right?
I mean, realistically speaking, you shouldn't be surprised that the proper libertarian position is less regulation, not more, right? Anytime you've got a situation where you've got an imbalance because you've got one favored group that gets special status versus another, the solution is not clamp down on everybody, it's open up for everybody.
Well, it's like there should be restrictions on government. I don't believe, it's like when it comes to gun control, I don't believe in civilian gun control, but there should be restrictions on people who are acting in official capacity as a government official, right? So a lobbyist may be a separate question. They may be private citizens acting as themselves, or they may be acting on behalf of a foreign government, in which case I think it's not the same thing as private citizens, and therefore free speech protections and things like that. There will be limits placed on the speech of soldiers who serve in the military, right, to protect state secrets, for example, except for those against when they're revealing crimes like Snowden or others in the military, contractors and things like that acting in that way. But official free speech rights, I think, should be protected to private citizens, lobbyists who are private, but not to government officials or government agencies.
Well, I think that's ultimately.
Go ahead, Judge.
When you receive a security clearance, you sign an agreement giving up, waiving your free speech rights with respect to that security clearance. I mean, that goes without saying. If you don't want to give up those rights, don't sign the agreement and don't get the security clearance. Go do something else.
Does that apply to things like vaccines? So if you sign up for the military, you sign up to waive your rights to bodily autonomy.
Okay, all right. It's a very good question. Members of the military are not permitted to express political speech in uniform or on government premises, but out of uniform and off government premises, they can express any opinion they want. Theoretically, they agreed to that when they signed up. This is different from top secret security clearance. Can a general say Trump is an idiot, vote for Harris? Well, out of uniform and off of military property, yes, but either in uniform or on military property, no.
Interesting stuff. What's your take on that, Tony?
Well, yeah, I would also say that in this situation, you've got people that didn't necessarily make any such agreements, but more importantly, weren't even privy necessarily to their part in this machine. And it becomes a lot more complicated when you can't even demonstrate who knew what and how much was, willful ignorance versus, deliberate misrepresentation. But when it comes to free speech in general, when it comes to what rights you can waive away, the dangerous part when we start talking about that and going down that road is invariably it's not actually limited to those people who sign a contract who agree, hey, look, I'm getting this clearance and therefore I'm going to curtail my speech as related to that, because the government applies that to anybody. If you happen to stumble into a top secret document, whether or not you ever had a security clearance and you just happen to skim it real fast and you tell me about it on your show, you've committed a crime. Well, you never agreed to waive your rights to disclosing that information, right? And
I'm tempted.
That's where we start going down the dangerous path.
Go ahead, Judge.
There's a yes and there's a no to that. Under the Pentagon Papers case, because Austin and I run bona fide media outlets. If we stumbled on a state secret that is of material interest to the public, we are free to publish it. It doesn't matter how we got it. Even if a thief gave it to us, it doesn't matter how we got it. The requirement is that it be legitimate media and of material interest to the government.
And who decides that exactly, right?
Theoretically, a court will decide it. A judge will decide it before there's a prosecution. The British courts refused to characterize Julian Assange, for example, as a legitimate media person publishing matters of material interest to the public. What could be more material to the public but that the government was slaughtering innocents in Iraq? But that didn't float the boat of the Brits because they're poodles to the American executive branch.
Don't you think they would do that exact same thing to us? Even though Julian Assange was a foreigner, it made it probably easier for the feds to get away with how they treated him. But look how they treated Edward Snowden, for example, Judge. If you or I, despite having served in the mainstream media, the alternative media, despite owning media institutions and profiting from them as our sole, most of our source of revenue, they would still give us the Snowden treatment. They would still trot out the Patriot Act and use FISA warrants. And I mean, here's the thing, Judge. I mean, let's be real here. You would have gotten stopped at an airport if you had shown up. Scott Ritter did get his passport nabbed. I mean, I'm within 2 jumps, as they say, of Lauren Chen from The Blaze. And, you know, so basically they can listen to your conversations, my conversations. If the feds ever wanted to trump up charges against you or I, and you know, certainly God knows they've tried against you, but you know, then they would treat us like Julian Assange. They would use those laws against someone like us, despite the fact that we are American patriots fighting for freedom and Constitution. They don't see us as freedom fighters; they see us as traitors.
Because we articulate speech adverse to the party line, if you want to use the phrase that was used in 1966. What you say is unfortunately correct. And the root of it is an antipathy to the Constitution. Everybody that works for the government, from a school board janitor to the president, everybody in between, local, state, federal, takes an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. Very few do. Thomas Massey does. Neil Gorsuch does. Tony Lavasco does. You could count on 2 hands the people that do.
Judge Andrew Napolitano, he's the host of this podcast, Judging Freedom, Tony. It gets millions of views. He writes a column every week, judgenap.com. Actually, his column this week is about this story of the 2 RT hosts who were sending the money through this Gregorian character, and his piece is talking about essentially a perfect preview of what we were just discussing. So if you'd like to read the judge's piece, I highly recommend it at judgenap.com. Judge, talk to me a little bit about who you have coming up on your show, who is definitely on some NSA watch list somewhere.
Well, that would be you and me. Hopefully not Tony. As we speak, the Secretary of State of the United States and his British counterpart are in Kyiv, and they are probably telling former, because he's no longer the legal president, former President Zelensky that he can use long-range missiles to reach Moscow. So Scott Ritter will be on with me at 11 this morning to discuss that, as will Colonel Larry Wilkerson, who was Chief of Staff to Secretary of State Colin Powell, and is now 180 degrees from the mentality that was embraced by the Bush-Cheney-Powell regime. He'll be on with me at 2 this afternoon. At 3, Phil Giraldi, the CIA agent who told George Bush that Saddam Hussein did not have weapons of mass destruction, and Bush threw him out of the Oval Office. And at 4 o'clock, Aaron Mate, who's an investigative journalist that covers the excesses of the Netanyahu regime in Israel.
Now, Judge, we have thousands of listeners right now to the show live on the many platforms we're streaming on, and I'm sure that they're loving what they're hearing. And normally I would ask you to give a sign up and, you know, say anything that you'd like to say to them. But actually today, Judge, I'd like you to do something different. I'd like you to sign off and say something to the feds who are listening in on our conversation right now. What do you have to say to them, Judge, as they're listening and recording to us right now?
The people who are actually doing the recording are probably decent human beings, just like the FBI agents that came to Scott Ritter's home are decent, hardworking people. It's their bosses who've lost sight of the Constitution. Unfortunately, since 9/11, of which today is the anniversary, an entire generation of federal agents has come of age with the attitude of seize the evidence first and worry about the Fourth Amendment later. For 200 years, it was the other way around. So they need to return to first principles, which is that the Constitution means what it says.
Judge Andrew Napolitano, the Constitution means what it says to all the glowing federal agents listening right now. Thank you, Judge. We look forward to seeing you next week. Great POV as always. A very lively discussion. You're the best, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Tony. All the best.
Yeah, visit him at judgenap.com. That's Judge Andrew Napolitano. We call that big brain time, Tony, and it's always a lot of fun. And sometimes it's even a little contentious, right? I think this is going to strike you as maybe a tad hyperbolic, but I've been a libertarian activist for 20 years. And I think that one of the big reasons why people don't and probably will never vote for libertarians is because I think libertarians would get us all killed, to be honest. I think that the foreign policy is well-meaning but naive. I think we're not living in the 1700s anymore. I think that nuclear weapons can destroy entire nations at the press of a button, and that there seems to be no accounting for that when it comes to a strategy, a tactical strategy to defend this country so that we can defend our rights. The foreign policy is a very difficult, very complicated question, and people, nobody agrees on foreign policy because there's as many foreign policy views as there are people on this planet. But I think that as a group, libertarians, listen, we should always protect our liberty, even in times of crisis, war, pandemic, what have you. But I don't understand exactly what "don't tread on me" means to a libertarian, because there's always this moment where you have like the Ron Paul moment in the debate where he says, if you're going to go to war, you should declare war constitutionally, and then you should win the war and you should come back home. Okay, but you spent 5 to 10 to 15 seconds saying we should go to war and do it constitutionally, but you didn't tell me how, because as soon as we did, you called us a war criminal, and everything that we did to try and protect this country and do what was actually in our national security. Those fine, very fine people on both sides that Judge Napolitano just analyzed, right, for the feds that were listening in the conversation that would love to arrest him and Scott Ritter and all his buddies on his podcast, those very fine people that he discussed, right? They're going to enact that foreign policy. So it just strikes me as I don't know, that libertarians are, I'm not saying this about the judge or you, but I mean, in general, pussies. Like, you don't know how to fight. You don't understand evil. The morality seems to be out of whack when it comes to the good guys and the bad guys. I had to listen to this Nazi talking about how Winston Churchill is the primary bad guy of World War II, and Tucker Carlson says he's the bravest historian in the world. It's like the right has adopted all of the retarded libertarian conspiracy theories and stupid foreign policy ideas, and none of our good ideas or good policy ideas on economics and trade. It's a damn shame, Tony. Boo.
Well, to borrow a line, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yes. Here's the rants.
I don't entirely disagree, but I think you're missing one important point.
Let's hear it.
And that is, no one who runs for office, and certainly not president, as you did, is the president, right? Unless you're an incumbent running for re-election, which doesn't come up that often, as you know. Most of these folks, I would dare say the vast majority, and certainly every libertarian, has not been president. They don't have all the information. And not a single person who's ever run for president and won in our lifetimes has stayed to all of their policies once they got elected,
and
especially on foreign policy.
And they can't,
because they don't know what's going on. They can bloviate. They can say, "Hey, this is what I think based on what I see on the news."
George W. Bush, 9/11. What was he supposed to do? The invasion of Iraq was wrong, but Afghanistan, it's like that's a little more dubious.
The difficulty, as Monday morning quarterbackers from the outside, is not only do we not have all the information and never will, but quite frankly, we shouldn't. And I think the issue that really comes down to whether
the noble lie, huh? The noble lie. They're too stupid to have the truth, Tony.
I didn't say that. I think the issue with libertarian foreign policy is that you're analyzing it from if you do exactly as you said in a perfect world that you set up, would that end badly or not? And the reality is
a hypothetical.
Yes. Anytime you act or assume someone's going to act based on their hypothetical understanding of things in their fantasy world, yeah, of course that's not going to work in the real world.
But it's the both sidesism. Here's the problem with this, right? The libertarian foreign policy frequently intersects with communist, woke policy because it adopts this anti-colonial view, this critical race theory view of oppressors and oppressed, and that the United States is the great Satan in the world, like the Muslim terrorists believe.
Yeah, that's stupid. I don't disagree.
But it's not neocon to suggest that I'm not going to get bombed at the marketplace by a bunch of Jews. Okay, it's going to be a Muslim terrorist who's going to stab you on the streets of London. It's going, and Christians don't cut off your head if you leave the faith and the religion. And these are cultural differences that lead people to murder, suicide, and to war. And if we don't have the courage, the moral courage to stand up and say, Winston Churchill had some problems, but he was a great fucking guy who killed Nazis. And yeah, the commies sucked. And yeah, they collaborated with the Nazis, but the communists could be the bad guys too. People just don't understand. Two things can be true at once.
And I think that yes, 100%. And I think the issue here and the difficulty that so many people have when they're discussing foreign policy in a libertarian mindset is that you can say, the United States has done terrible things, that we have committed atrocities, but we're still the good guys.
Yes.
You can hold both of those positions. You can be critical and say this can never happen again.
You have to, or else you do not have moral clarity. Here's why. Because Thomas Jefferson was a damn good man, and George Washington was a damn good man. But George Washington took scissors, had his people take scissors and snip the toes off of slaves so they would not run away. That is a horrendous evil committed against our fellow man. And then, notwithstanding this act of slavery itself, was George Washington overall a good man, a great man, a good positive force on this planet? Yes. Did he do evil shit? Yeah. So overall, how do we judge their legacies? It can't be this dark,
The answer is it doesn't matter. The reason that we have these debates, the reason that we care about foreign policy, that we care about domestic policy, is to shape the future. We can look back at the past and say whether or not Abraham Lincoln was a good dude or a bad dude, and I've weighed in on that before, you know that. It doesn't matter. None of that is relevant. That's just, a fun thought experiment. The issue is, what is the pathway moving forward that's going to move this country in the right direction? And I still firmly believe that the libertarian-inspired philosophy, not the dogma, not the non-aggression principle, but the concept generically that intervening in foreign affairs that do not directly affect the United States is a negative thing. It doesn't mean that that there's never exceptions, that there's never a time that we need to get involved, that there's never an atrocity we need to stop. Of course there is. But
Pearl Harbor, was that our fault? Was Pearl Harbor our fault? Because listen, I'm tired of the libertarian people siding with the communists and saying we get bitch slapped around, we're supposed to take it. Oh, and it's your fault you're getting abused.
No, that's ridiculous.
Blaming the victim. There's a lot of victim blaming that goes on when it comes to libertarian foreign policy. It's like, oh, the United States, Japan was just the little victim. Oh, they were raping Nanking and slaughtering thousands of Chinese civilians and killing our Brits, which putting them on baton death marches. But no. America is the great evil. Churchill is the great evil. How am I supposed to listen to the foreign policy of such retarded people who have no moral clarity? That is why I think Americans look at libertarians and they think we are morally bankrupt. And in many times they are right. They're right.
And I think I would agree with that with one caveat. And that is, there are folks in this space, and we can disagree on who they might be, but there are folks that are consistent and will call out atrocities on all sides. They're not going to say that America is always wrong.
Very few.
You're absolutely right. And those are the ones we should listen to. The problem is, as a knee jerk, both the right and the left invariably take this, I heard a stupid argument from the person I'm talking to, and because it was stupid, well, I must take the exact opposite viewpoint. Well, that's also stupid.
That's because you know what?
That's what we keep doing over and over.
But that's a psychology.
If you're not with us, you're with the terrorists. Well, that's dumb.
Well, here's the thing. That's a political problem, but it's also a psychological problem because most people, I don't know how we deprogram people, left, right, center, third party people, they all suffer from this. Yes. And this is a way of thinking. What's happening here is that they're engaging in binary thinking. If it's not this, it's that, right? It's this or that. But I will say, it's not to say that something like that there isn't like a very strong good versus evil. Sometimes there really is a good guy and a bad guy, sure. Right? Like I posted a video, and I'm going to play it here in just a few minutes, of a transgender person taking an axe to the face of a dude in a gas station. I played it yesterday. I've got a different clip today, but it's like they didn't do anything to provoke it. And there's moral clarity here on this situation. If there ever was a war that there was, at least to some extent, a certain sense of moral clarity, World War II feels like that. World War I, a little murkier, right? Civil War, difficult topic here, touchy subject here in the United States. But Nazis versus the UK, Nazis versus the United States. I'm picking the United States every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bomb Dresden, save New York.
And I think that's the difficulty is reasonable people will get to a point and say, bombing unrelated non-combatant civilians is an evil atrocity and we should never do it. However, I guarantee every single person, if you push them to a hypothetical situation far enough, will get to a point that they'll tell you, well, yeah, it's an atrocity, but to save my family, I'm going to push that button, right? And I think that's the difficulty is who do we trust in power to know when it's time to push that button?
Right.
And I still maintain if we got to choose an extreme, I'm going to err more on the side of caution than on
Agreed.
Dick Cheney. Right?
Exactly. No, I want a Calvin Coolidge in there, right?
Yes.
But barring that, here's the thing, we can't have a Calvin Coolidge right now because people need bombastic. People have social media. They're addicted to drugs and alcohol, and they require a show in the Coliseum, unfortunately, where there will be bodies and corpses. The people demand blood, bread, and circuses. So they're going to get it, okay? Which is why we're going to have Donald Trump. So I want, at least if I'm going to have to deal with the bread and circuses, I want Julius Caesar to ensure that Rome doesn't get invaded by the barbarians. I don't want 20,000 Haitians eating dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio, right? I don't say I want a warlord, but I want somebody that if they do go to war, that they can win it, that they've got the guts. I don't want 5'4" with an attitude, bitchy boss girl, like can't stand up to the bad guys and the evil in the world because one, they don't have the physical or the mental capability to withstand those kinds of attacks or that kind of a situation, or two, or three, they actually willingly want to sell us out for the ideals of Chinese communism or Russian oligarchies.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the whole speak softly and carry a big stick concept is something that, quite frankly, Trump really did do for the most part in his first term. Mm-hmm. He wasn't out there starting new wars, et cetera, et cetera. Now, he made some missteps in the foreign policy, area, no doubt. But the reality is, in the last 30 years, he did not expand our involvement in needless foreign wars as much as everyone else did. And I would say that's a positive. There's no reason to expect he'll be any different when he comes back. And you absolutely know that Kamala Harris is going to embody just an extension of the same nonsense that we've had for 30 years.
Tony, this has been a great conversation. I could do this all day. I mean, the debate last night sparked this conversation. I know if you're tuning in to hear that conversation, then you will be sorely disappointed. We did talk about it earlier in the show, though. So if you want to back up this show after, if you just tuned in, you'd like to hear that conversation, it's at the beginning of the show, me and Tony hanging out. Then we talked to the judge a little bit about espionage, FARA, Russia, and all that stuff leading into this conversation where Tony Lavasco, Missouri State Rep, is joining me on set and live to talk about the big picture questions of the world. It is big brain time on Wednesday, so we do sometimes tend to meander down and get into the weeds on certain minutia of policy, but that's what Wednesdays are for. But if that's not your thing, Thursdays are Thirsty Thursdays. So if you like beautiful women, guess what? We got them. There you go. On Friday, it's Freedom Family Friday. And speaking of beautiful women, my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wife, Stephanie, joins us in studio. And so does Baby Hazel. Baby Hazel. Tony, I've got a cute little baby. You guys need to see her. Yes, you do. Oh, hey, FYI, Oktoberfest. We're going to go this year. Okay. You, me, Camelia, Ava Lavasco. Ava. I just like to say Ava, but it's Eva. But we're going to go to Herman, Missouri wine country. Missouri's a beautiful state, isn't it?
It is.
Between here and where you live, I live here in Jeff, you live over there, St. Charles area, is just gorgeous. It's wine country in Missouri. There's so much beauty.
Yeah, good balance of hills and prairies, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, right. Some forests here and there. Right. Go a little further south and you're in the Mark Twain forest down there in southeast Missouri. And Missouri really has a lot to offer for people like you and I who crave intellectual discourse, which can happen in the cities like Kansas City and St. Louis and Jefferson City and Springfield and other areas. But also sometimes we like to get the hell away from it and go canoeing, don't we?
I learned something the other day that was very interesting. The vast majority of the state, I didn't do a percentage, but I would guess based on the chart, probably about 95% of the state does not have building codes. Good selling point.
The day after I lost the presidential, not the day after presidential, may have been the Senate race, one of those two. I was sleeping in a tent down by the river. Just kidding. No, but yes, actually, not by a river, but I was sleeping in a tent as I was transitioning to a new place. I just went out to the farm and I spent the night out on the farm where I grew up with my dad's raised. I could have stayed in the house, but I just was like, you know what? I just feel like going back to nature and kind of like clearing my head and just having a night by myself. So like a homeless person, I went out on the family farm, not homeless, but went out on the family farm and spent the night. And I looked up at the stars and, sat on the back of my pickup truck. And I thought about what life had for me ahead of me. And this exciting part of this is an exciting part of my career, but I've had exciting parts of my career that were wild and insane and like souped up. And now I kind of really appreciate and enjoy life in the Midwest, right? Not living in New York and DC and having a family and a baby, still participating to some extent, right? Doing a little pugilism on Twitter and doing these interviews with you. But, people like yourself, I really see many great things coming from you. And I wonder, what your thoughts are. Like, are you going to go live in the woods for a little while?
There's been plenty of times I thought about that, and a lot of them recently, quite frankly.
Yeah.
The difficulty with this gig in general and with politics is that you have to kind of balance the desire to continue the fight, to keep, doing what you can to chip away at the terrible system, versus realizing that you're probably not going to win, and it's going to crush you sooner or later, and maybe you should just dig a hole and press for it. Because the more you get into it, the more you realize how terrible it really is.
True. It's true, Tony.
And so, I go back and forth. I'm not disappearing. I'm not pulling up ship and digging my hole just yet. I might be digging for the hole for somebody else to go in, but that's a separate issue. The fun part here is we are in the minority and we are losing, but that means there's always something to work on. There's always something that you can do to make the world better.
Great, Tony. Way to black pill us all.
It was getting to the positive part. There is always something that you can do to contribute to make the world just a little bit more free, even if it's just on your neighborhood block and smacking down your HOA. There's always something you can do. And if you completely black pill and decide like, I'm just, I'm not going to vote, I'm not going to participate because it's all rigged, all you end up having is the people that you hate controlling you that much more.
Tony, this is a great conversation. I'm going to go show them some people getting punched in the face and talk to them a little bit about how to do karate, okay?
All right.
It's been a great conversation today. Thanks for coming in and hanging out and going to bat with the judge and having a great conversation today. I think people really appreciated it. Kamala Harris really appreciated it. Sorry about that. That's Kamala Harris, the next president of the United States. You want to be black-pilled completely, Tony. Where can people follow you online?
Oh, sure. I'm most actively on Twitter, or X as they call it now. I'm at Tony Lavasco. I also have a Facebook presence. My website's TonyLavasco.com.
TonyLavasco.com. Give it up for Tony. He served the people of Missouri faithfully and well. And he is a freedom fighter and a true patriot and a good friend. Tony, thanks so much. You've got a wonderful woman there in your wife.
I do.
She really is. She sticks by you and she fights for you and she watches your back. And boy, you really ought to be proud of her because I think she's the best thing going for you.
Absolutely.
Tony, have a good day and we'll talk to you real soon, okay?
Thanks, Austin.
All right, get out of my studio. It's the Wake Up America show. Let's talk about fighting. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Let's check the super chats real quick. Let's see if we hit that $60 bonus content. I don't know if we did. I don't know if we did it. I am required to go in and check on the donation. 5, 10, 15, and then 25. See you later, Tony. Let's see. So we have raised $45 towards the $60 goal. That's not bad, guys. We're getting there. If you want to see today's bonus content, you're going to have to hit that Rumble rant button or a YouTube super chat. I will check the YouTube super chats as soon as I drop that bonus content in there, ready to roll. For those who want to see that instead of commercials, the rest of the Wake Up America show is just going to be you and me. So if you'd like to see the bonus content today, get those Rumble rant donations in. Right meow. That's over on Rumble. Or if you'd like to support the show and engage in a little capitalistic commerce, my e-commerce solution is forlibertyshop.com. And we've got a ton of awesome Halloween merch, Trump merch, LifeKamala t-shirts, if you get the joke, if you know what it is. Head on over to forlibertyshop.com. Those purchases of hats and mugs and t-shirts and delicious founding flavors coffee go towards the $60 total. We've raised $45 towards the $60 goal, so not much left to go, and you'll hit $60 and you get to see today's bonus content. I'll just go ahead and spill the beans. It's about Tim Walz, under Governor Tim Walz. Babies born alive in botched abortions were left to die, and then he removed the reporting requirements. If you'd like to see that mini documentary about that story and get that, then unlock the bonus content, and you guys will be able to view that instead of commercials. Okay, are we ready? We good? Awesome. Well, we talked about the debate. We talked about how it was rigged. We talked about foreign policy. We talked about Russia. It's time to talk about fighting. Yes, everybody was kung fu fighting. These kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. All right, here is the fight. It says random fight, but as anyone who's trained in martial arts to one extent, you know that one of these people has been doing their jiu-jitsu and their homework, or actually this looks more like wrestling, real wrestling, not professional wrestling, the fake stuff. So watch these two gentlemen square off, and then I will give you my reaction and give you a few pointers on self-defense. All right, you ready? You ready? Let's go. Be careful, there might be some bad language, harsh language in this.
Come on, man. I'll take this along. Come on. Come on, nigga. Get a shot. Oh, yeah. You going to sleep. You say you going to sleep.
You could hear him say, "Oh, you're going to sleep. You a bad bitch, don't you?" And then, did you see the mistake that the black dude saw there already? Here we go. Watch him watch white boy go to work.
Ooh, come on. Come on, my boy.
Take down. Ground and pound. Ground and pound. Take down. Come on, my black brother. See, now the fear that you have in something like this is that you get jumped. But let's keep going. You're not supposed to let him go. This is a fight. Get the fuck out. He wanted. Thank you, God. Thank you, my black brothers. He wanted that. He wanted that. He wanted that. Yeah. So couldn't just sit there and watch the black dude die. Jesus H. Thank you, Andy, for the Rumble rant, brother. Appreciate you. All right. So soup to nuts. 50 seconds of a random fight on the street with white boy. Looks like he spent some time in maybe a little bit of boxing and wrestling, which if you're looking for self-defense martial arts, the two martial arts combo in the United States that you're probably going to be able to get the best training for the best self-defense is going to be boxing and either jiu-jitsu or wrestling, both very good martial arts. You could see it in his stance. Watch white boy here. Here he is. Now, I would have my hands up a little bit more, but he probably doesn't want to telegraph that he has skills that he has. But watch how the black guy notices by the way that he moves his legs. See, he's got a very wide stance here. That's very telling. That shows that he's probably got some kind of a boxing background here.
Come on, nigga, get a shot. Oh, yeah, you going to sleep.
Now, keep your hands up. If he was a real boxer, if he'd spent a lot more time in boxing, maybe an amateur boxer, or just did a little bit of a striking art at some point, he'd be having his hands up above his face like this, a little bit higher to protect his ribs and his face.
Ooh, come on. Come on, my boy.
Want to help you, but I can't now. See, this is how fights really are. They're messy. They're not always on even surfaces. You can see them slipping and sliding around. That's concrete. That's hurting. When the black guy goes down, and but either one of them go down, even the guy who's taking him down, when your knees hit that concrete, it hurts. So here, the problem the wrestler had is that he grabbed the person by the waist, which isn't bad. He would have done better if he had gotten lower and grabbed him by the legs to do a double leg takedown. So he wasn't able to complete the takedown fully. He was able to take him down, get behind him, and start to do a semi-ground and pound. Now he's got him in this one, and the black guy is saying to himself, "Help, how could you let this happen to me?" Here he is, he's going to sleep. One guy steps in. This is when you have the danger of getting sucker punched in the face. That's why you never, ever, ever want to get in fights, because they never are exactly what you think they'll be. Pause. Now, listen, just all it took is one bystander, Good Samaritan, to come in here and say, no, chill. He wanted that to get the guy who said, no, get off of him, to listen to him. It takes one good person to stand up and do the right thing. Now, here's the problem that I have. The problem that I have with this video in terms of self-defense is that he wanted that. And when you are in a situation where we're talking about self-defense, it's quite possible that the white boy was provoked. We don't know what happened before this one, but I can say your first problem is that you were in this fight at all. You should try and avoid altercations to the best extent that you can, unless you are in mortal danger yourself or people that you love are in mortal danger. People around you, if anyone around you is a threat, you can act as a good Samaritan. I'm not saying you shouldn't, to act to save the lives of other people around you, even if your own life isn't in danger. However, it doesn't appear as if this person is threatening other people. He doesn't appear to have a knife or a gun or any kind of a threat. He just wants to fight with this guy. And it looks like white boy is looking like he's going for the opportunity to do what he finally has trained for 15 years or so. And trust me, I get it. I feel that. And I got jumped by a dude on the street. I won't say jumped, but I got assaulted by one person on the streets of Kansas City and Westport, and did my karate, but only to be able to get myself the time that I needed to get away. This guy, he put him down, you got to get away, right? And instead he decides to engage. The question is, does white boy have an option to exit? Does he have an escape? Can he run away from this guy, right? Maybe he needs to take him down and then to end the fight and then get away. But when it comes to him putting him to sleep, other people could step in. But at the end of the day, you should go till that person does go to sleep if you feel you are in serious danger here.
Come on, man, I'll take you along. Come on. Come on, nigga, get a shot. Oh, yeah, you going to sleep. He said he's going to sleep.
He goes, oh, you going to sleep. So you can see the turnabout, the attitude change, and the guy on the right with the yellow jacket here, the black dude. You could see the attitude change where he goes, you're going to sleep. He goes, oh, you're a bad bitch, ain't you? Because he can see that he's got moves.
He said he's going to sleep. Oh, yeah, you going to sleep. He said he's going to sleep. Ooh, come on. Come on, my boy. Oh, damn, man. I want to help him, but I can't. I'm going to help him, bro. Damn. Come on, my black brother. Hey, come on.
There you go.
Hey, let him go. Let him go. Hey, let him go. Hey, let him go. Hey.
And see, at some point before this would have been a good time to try and get out of there. I understand the desire to use your training. And sometimes you may have to, if you're backed into a corner, if your loved ones are under threat, or if you are acting as a good Samaritan. But I have to say that sitting there doing this and then finishing the guy off on top of the concrete, what's right is right, what right may be right, but we don't live in a world where good people aren't prosecuted for doing the right thing or defending themselves. So, yeah, and Joni Rankin reminds us, of course, a knife or a gun could have been pulled. It's like that video I showed you yesterday with a transgender person. They may have had an axe in one hand, and you may think, oh, well, I'm close. They're not going to be able to swing that axe, so I can take it away from them if I need to. No, it's very difficult. You might have to, but you don't want to. But then you wouldn't have realized that when you grab for the axe, she's just going to let it go, and they're going to grab the knife out of their back pocket and stab you with it, right? Best defense, Mr. Miyagi. No, be there. Sensei Austin Peterson hosts says it's time to go. Hey, thanks, guys. You rock. Hope you enjoy the Wake Up America show. If today was the first time that you watched it, then hey, come back and join us tomorrow morning. It's going to be more fun as well. So 7 to 9 a.m. Central, Monday through Friday. That is the schedule. It's a great way to start your day. We're always having a blast on the Wake Up America show, giving you great guests, stellar content, great clips, great conversations, silly shirts, serious coverage. It's the Wake Up America show. So click like, repost us if you're on X, or if you're on Rumble, make sure that you've liked and subscribed the stream. As you exit, we like to say you exit through the Grift Shop, not the gift shop, the Grift Shop, forlibertyshop.com. You guys got that bonus content unlocked. You're going to get to watch it. I got to break it down in the studio right now, guys. Leave a little early because they need it. Enjoy the bonus content. I'll see you guys here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Bye, guys.
Wake Up America show's bonus content. Thank you for supporting our program and our freedom family. Today's content: under Governor Tim Walz, babies born alive in botched abortions were left to die. Then he removed reporting requirements. Data from the Minnesota Health Department shows babies born alive the practice, favoring abortion on demand and infanticide. In January 20, the new legislation emphasized the right to autonomous reproductive health decisions, using reproductive health care as a euphemism for abortion.
Years ago, we started this journey together, bringing you the Wake Up America show every morning. I couldn't have done it without my incredible wife, Steffi, who's always by my side, and now our beautiful baby, Hazel, who's already getting used to studio life, waiting patiently during Freedom Family Fridays. What truly makes this show special is you. Your donations, your purchases from forlibertyshop.com. You're not just supporters, you're family. Together we've built something amazing, and we're just getting started. Thank you for being a part of our family. Here's to many more years of Wake Up America.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor of your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at ap4libertyshop.com.